James Forrest, Niko Kuhn, and Brendan Rodgers has been told to do something by an ex-Celtic player. Just another day in the news of Celtic FC on the run into the end of the season. A season that should have really been wrapped up this weekend with a win at home to Kilmarnock, which would have set us up absolutely beautifully. It would have set us up absolutely beautifully for going to Hampden the week after and facing St Johnstone at Hampden. And what we call James Forrest time. Yes, James Forrest has scored many goals at Hampden. He's scored many goals over his career. He needs to score one soon before the end of the season to make sure that he's just keeping his little record going. But Brendan Rodgers has been, before we talk about James Forrest and Niko Kuhn, Brendan Rodgers has been told to bring someone in from the academy, bring someone in from the B team, or bring someone in that's been out on loan for the left back area to team up with the one and only Kieran Tierney, who is playing at the highest level in the Champions League at this time of the season. You better get used to doing that, because he's not going to be doing it with Celtic. Who am I trying to kid? Anyway, Andy Walker's been told that he suggested that Celtic need to bring in someone from the B team for backup. And I agree with him. All the hurrah about Jeffrey Sloop. And Jeffrey Sloop came in, he steadied the ship when Brendan Rodgers finally had decided that I'm going to play Kieran Tierney because he's not going to be here next season. Not Kieran Tierney, Greg Taylor. I can't even say his name, especially with all the speculation about him going across the city. And the more speculation that comes, it makes you think that actually might happen. But anyway, Mitchell Frame, who's made 26 appearances for the B team in the Lowland League, he also came off the bench last season and played in the Champions League, if I remember right. But he did well in pre-season and then disappeared out the scene again. I think it's time for the likes of him to step up to the mark, or even Matthew Anderson. He's been put out. There's more chance of Matthew Anderson playing back up to Kieran Tierney. He is a 21-year-old. He's been playing over in the Austrian second division for the last couple of seasons out on loan. And I think there's more chance of him coming back to Celtic and being put as understudy to, either way, there has to be one of the two of them. Mitchell Frame will be thinking that he's done enough in the B team. Matthew Anderson will say, listen, I'm doing what Celtic want me to do. Go out and get my football education. It's worked for other players. It's now my time to come back to Celtic and show you what I've got. I mean, he's done quite well. They're sitting second, sitting top, I believe, of the Austrian division. And he's made 15 appearances for them this season with 2 goals and 2 assists. You're going to say, well, that's not a great return, but for a 21-year-old left back that has basically came through the system at Celtic, I think that he's right. Tell me what you think in the comments. Should we be now looking, and especially the way that foreign players seem to be using Celtic, and Niko Kuhn for one. And it was interesting because I seen a picture of the team last season when they were standing outside, when they come off the bus on trophy day. And someone comes off the bus and puts the trophy on a little stand, and then Brendan Rodgers and the players come up and stand behind it and get their pictures taken. Even then, Kyogo's face was tripping him. Even then, Kyogo's face was absolutely tripping him that day. Look at that picture. It was an interesting one. Anyway, I digress. With the likes of the younger players that have came through or are coming through at Celtic, I think that there is no reason now for Brendan Rodgers, for a man who has said many, many times over the last 2 years, I give youth their opportunity. It's time to step up and show us that you do give youth the opportunity, Brendan, because if not, we could see more young players that are leaving the club. Kieran Tierney coming back is a fantastic piece of business, getting a £25 million player for absolutely nothing. Getting a player that is playing in the later stages of the Champions League for nothing is a fantastic piece of business, and we all know that Kieran Tierney will do well. I think he will do even better bringing through some of the younger guys, because the reason that you need Kieran Tierney back at the club, with James Forrest getting into the final years of his career, with Callum McGregor coming at the final years of his career, you need people back at Celtic. You need people in the first team at Celtic that can talk about the benefits of going away and all the riches and the things that it can have. But then there's the downside of leaving Celtic and what you miss. And I think that Callum McGregor, The likes of Scott Brown done it before. Scott Brown said on many, many occasions the amount of times that players would phone him up, and the biggest one was Gary Hooper. He said, yep, Gaz phoned me up about 6 months later and said, I made a mistake. Brownie says, I told you, the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence, as they say. But we want our best players to stay in, and there's one player that looks as if he's maybe down tools slightly, and it is Niko Kuhn. What has happened to Niko Kuhn, the enigma? Niko Kuhn's a player that came in just over a year and a bit ago. Had a fantastic first half to the season. He smashed 18 goals and provided 14 assists, was it? Since he's been at Celtic, but he's not been playing that great. And it all came around at the time where there was a lot of speculation coming out of Newcastle, and the Newcastle Gazette was one publication that was putting out quite regular that Newcastle were going to come in for him. And everything kind of started to go a bit sour for Niko Kuhn then. Does he think that he's going to get this opportunity to go to Newcastle this summer? Is he doing enough to think he could just get by because he wants to go and play a bigger league? Many times we would have heard that. And I mean, okay, the Scottish football isn't the best league, and if they go down to a 10, for me, it's nail coffin time with Scottish football. I mean, it's not going to disappear, but it's horrendous if it goes down to a 10. I think the majority of fans out there want us to go to a 16. But when you're playing in the Champions League for Celtic, there's no higher league that you can play in. There's not a higher performance level that you need to perform in. If he goes to Newcastle, he might get into the Champions League, he might not. I don't know where they are in the league. I don't care, actually. But the fact that he played well against Bayern, but since that game, I mean, everyone played well against Bayern Munich, and weirdly enough, we haven't had a performance like that since Bayern Munich. Tells you everything about that. Not only the poor performances against St Johnstone at the weekend, there's other ones that we could look back on, but he was hauled off at half-time, which tells you a lot when a manager, because Brendan Rodgers isn't one for taking players off at half-time. Sometimes we get a bit frustrated with Brendan and he leaves the players on too long. What is he seeing in training? And for what he said after the game also, saying that there's certain first-team starters who have got far too comfortable. And I've said it before, Adam Ida and Kyogo fell into that position. There was no pressure on Adam Ida and Kyogo, because if one started, the other one knew they were sitting on the bench and they were coming on in the 60-minute mark. There was no real pressure. We needed to bring in another striker to put real pressure on the two strikers. Now we've got the young Johnny Kenny, but he can't even get a place on the bench because Brendan Rodgers only likes to play one striker on the bench as a backup. Niko Kuhn, I think that we can all say that whatever anomaly that he's going through, and even the fact that a certain pundit managed to take a dig at him, the edge has gone out of his game. He's not taking on players. He just doesn't seem interested, and that's a danger when you're at Celtic. Will Kuhn be dropped? And I'm going to say it, will Kuhn be dropped this weekend for the visit to Kilmarnock? And will it be the Jamesy Forrest show? For me, get James Forrest on all day long. James Forrest has won more medals than everyone in the squad put together at Celtic. But I think that James Forrest knows what it takes to get us over the line. And people saying, oh, fuck, if we're bringing James Forrest on, we're goosed, we're done. Give the guy a little respect. He's been here and he's done it. And he's still proven that he's still got the pace. He was unlucky. I mean, for Jamesy Forrest to hit that one right down the throat of the keeper last weekend, you're thinking he'll get another chance. He'll do it. How many times have we seen that over the years? James Forrest just bringing it down, coming from the inside and then just putting it past. When you look at it, is he better than Kuhn? Yes, all day long. Would you start him before it? Yep. And what is the true valuation on Niko Kuhn? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. Forrest returning at this time of the season, when it's trophy time, it's written in the stars. His trickery, he's getting past players, his work ethic, and that's what it comes down to. Even at his age, his work ethic is a thing that a lot of other players should be looking at. Niko Kuhn, He needs to just take one look at James Forrest and how he acts when he comes onto the pitch and how direct he is. And that's one thing that James Forrest will do. He's had wingers like Lewis Palmer, who's came in, not been up to it. He's had many wingers over the years that have tried to keep him at the team. What do we do when James Forrest hangs up his boots? That's a serious question. Because right now, he could potentially be the on-form player going into the end of the season. And that would be something else after all these years at Celtic. Celtic do go back to Celtic Park this weekend, and it is a game against Kilmarnock. It is a 12:30 kickoff. It was meant to be the day. It was meant to be the day that they won the league again. Sitting on 78 points, having won 3 of our last 5 games. We've lost 2. It's unbelievable to think that in the running that we've lost 2 games. It's never usually the case. We never usually lose games at this time. What else has went on in the background? Why has Rodgers not been able to motivate this team this year the way that he has in previous years to turn up and this is our time, you know, and all the motivational speeches and the things that Celtic put out on their little documentary at the beginning of the season? I mean, we're going to win the league. There's no doubts about that. But it could have been a lot closer. It could have been, but there's no ifs and buts. And when it comes to the end of the season, Celtic will have won 4 in a row, and that's all that matters. We're going on to 5. With that being said, the dates have been released. Yes, the dates have been released for the fixture dates. Not the fixtures, but the dates have been released for the fixtures for next season. And it looks like Celtic, if they're going to go on for 5 in a row, are going to win it on the 16th and 17th of May next year. The only good thing about that is you know the dates that when the football's going to be played and when the international breaks are, so you can start booking your holidays and stuff around about the international breaks, because there's no Celtic on, so you go on holiday, don't you? A lot of people. But you don't know if it's an away game or a home game. So that's the only downside of it. Until the fixtures are out, Celtic play Kilmarnock, who, it should have been the case that if we beat Kilmarnock, we would not only win the league, but we would help put them down into the relegation zone, which I hope that we still do, because that is a team that I'd love to see getting relegated. Oh, watch this. If Kilmarnock get relegated, I bet you that all of a sudden increase the size of the league. Maybe that's what they're waiting on, to see if what favourite team of theirs in the SPFL manages to hit the bottom spot. Maybe that's why they're waiting. Let's see who hits bottom, and then we'll you know what, we can't really let yous go down. Well, it's just pure tinfoil hat stuff. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world. Where's my coffee? It's cold.